everyone, welcome to the show. Tonight we're joined by Ian White. Now I needed to remember that there because I was looking at the other Ian and thinking there's two Ians tonight, so I'm going to have to kind of watch who I'm talking to.
I've just put my surname there, so you're okay.
Good. I always need reminding. So guys, I just want to shout out for a quick happy birthday to Nick's sister today. It's her birthday, so happy birthday to Nick's sister, and I hope she's a good day. While I'm sharing out, guys, you can talk among yourselves.
So is that it?
What's your specialty then, Ian? What are you most into?
To be honest, the thing that I'm really into is witchcraft and activism. Because I've written a couple of articles about the Binding Trump. Have you heard of Binding Trump?
No, I can't say no.
There's a group out in the States. So it's sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm just saying hi, everybody.
Do you know? I don't understand technology. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine, honey.
When Trump got the presidency, witchcraft, where the interest in witchcraft in the States went through the roof, and there was this group, Binding Trump, who are now, I believe, they're mostly known as the Magical Resistance, and they are a community of witches, not just in the States but all around the world, who hold a ritual every month. I should know the day. I think it's either the 29th or the 30th of every month, midnight. And they bind Trump at the time or various other politicians not to do any harm. So,
what denomination is that? Is there a particular denomination to it? You know, like Wicca.
Yeah.
Is there a denomination to it?
No. I mean, there are witches from all kinds of denominations.
Yeah.
You know, that's the lovely thing about the Binding Trump movement. I mean, you know, the thing about witchcraft, or certainly in my experience of talking to people over the years, is you get the really friendly witches who are just doing their own thing, who don't have a prescribed way of doing things, who just, you know, they're very happy for you just to believe in the way that you want to believe, you know, however you want to do it. And then you've got kind of the elite witches who say, oh no, you've got to be part of this.
Yeah.
Or you've got to be in Gardnerian or something like that. And Binding Trump, or the Magic Resistance, I should say, is nothing like that. In fact, there are a lot of people, I think, involved in the Magic Resistance who probably don't even identify as witches. You know, they are using the idea of the ritual as a way of, I guess, passive protest, if you like. You know, it's a way of actually putting their feelings out into the world.
No, I do get it.
There's a lot of denominations, different denominations out there. Like I said, I mean, and in some countries it's woven into way of life. Really, I mean, look at what do they call them now? Witch doctors, Tahiti.
Yes.
It's way of life, isn't it? You know what I mean? So it's nothing new, been around for centuries.
No, it isn't. And when you think about it, it's you look at, say, third world countries, especially like Nigeria, and you know, they are still, sadly, executing people who they believe to be witches. There is a massive belief still in witchcraft, but I think witchcraft is changing. You know,
I can't agree more. And I think also, Ian, as you're saying, in many different cultures, and I've seen it because I'm not in many groups now because obviously I had to change my profile. But when I was on my old profile, I was in, I don't know how, I've lost count of how many groups I was in, and about 80% of them were witches groups. and that you were still seeing a lot of people before obviously they brought in posting enormously. You seen a lot of people that were going by fake names. They were obviously like they were saying that they preferred witch groups that were closed so that the outside world no one could see them. And a lot of those people that were posting were for communities that were, judgmental on the whole of witchcraft. You can't be a witch. And at least, and I'm not being racist in any way, shape or form, but most of these places were in America, these people were coming from, because a lot of them were always asking, is the group closed, will the family see, and it's horrible when you've got to live like that, when you can't actually be yourself. Now, I really, really love witchcraft. I've got several books up there on witchcraft and Satanism and things like that because I have a like an interest in both sides,
Yeah.
and I'm especially becoming really interested in the cult and Satanism only because it's one of those ones that people turn their nose up to, and you see white witches. Now, I've seen this in plenty of groups when people have said that they're grey witches, that they automatically their back goes into a hunch and they're like, oh my god, you're going to hell, blah blah blah, you're bad, you're evil, and it's like that. Well, when we weigh up the Bible until weigh up Satanism, you've got a Bible that preaches that this is the life that you have to follow, have to. But in Satanism, it's promoting you to be yourself.
But
If
Yeah.
the
people
thing
want
is,
to be, if
the
people
thing
want
is
to
with
be out there,
Satanism,
uh, when people want to be out there, I mean, what really, really pisses me off is when news articles get written, a sheep is dead. It was a Satanist. Well, how the fuck do you know it was a Satanist? Did you see them with their gowns? Did you see them doing rituals? Did you see them? I mean, how can you say it's Satanism? It's
but
it's just
the thing
people
is,
being
Louis,
pure evil.
Satan's only mentioned once, and that's in Old Testament. Not mentioned at all in Bible, apart from once in Old Testament, as far as I'm aware.
Was
Maybe
the
you
Witch
could,
of Endor as well.
Ian,
Sorry?
Um,
if you know whether that's correct. As far
well,
as I know, that's correct. It's only Satan's only mentioned once, and that's in Old Testament. He's
Yeah.
well, I'm trying,
relatively
but I
modern.
just
He's
can't understand
relatively
you.
modern.
Maybe every first word. Oh well, is that understanding? What you not understanding, Pam? Is it because we're breaking up or something? And there's no black or white. There's only magic.
No, I agree with that. And that
Mm.
I think the thing that
There's too many denominations that are overlapping. From my point of view now, Wiccanism or Wiccans, whichever way you want to pronounce it, that's the biggest denomination in this country. It's been growing steadily since turn of century. It's now the biggest in this side of Europe, but they're overlapping and they come collabing, shall we say, with North American tribes and taking a lot of their stuff on board. It's evolving.
yeah,
Witchcraft is evolving, which why shouldn't it? Everything else does.
when you think Wicca is just a very modern is the most modern form of witchcraft. You know, that was Gerald Gardner who
Yeah.
brought Wicca in just while it was still, illegal over here, and he had to practice with his coven in the New Forest or the various other people, undercover, literally undercover of darkness, because
Yeah.
you'd get arrested if you didn't. But witchcraft has been with us in its various forms for, well, I mean, it's going to be impossible to tell, isn't it? I mean, back centuries, probably from the beginning of when men first, arrived on the earth and started looking at the sun and the moon and the seasons and realizing that you had to plant things and talking to the gods, having an intercessor, a shaman who was normally a woman, to talk to the gods, to bring them good hunting, to find them food, to water the crops, bring down the rain. There's always been some kind of witchcraft. You're right, Brian. There are hundreds, thousands of forms of witchcraft, and it's constantly evolving, and it's constantly it's something that I think Annette is quite right. What she said a few minutes ago on the link there, that there is only magic. There's no white. I agree with her. I don't believe there is white magic or black magic. I believe there is magic, and that I want to believe, let's put it that way, that we all have an ability to access it if we believe in it enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of spells and things like that have been lost over time.
And they gave it a title so they could control it in groups.
Yeah, no, they did.
Like everything.
Hey, Robert. But yeah, it's one of those ones. But then you find in some of these groups, and I thought for a while, it must be paranormal group that must be the most bitchiest. But then I've been in some witchy groups that can be extremely worse, because they've got an offer. I don't know how you feel about this being right, but in a lot of groups, right, when people put up posts, and I know it's my friend's biggest bugbearer, they absolutely hate it, but when people call themselves baby witches, that is my friend's utter bugbearer. Like, my friend hates it. Why can't they just say, you beginning? Why have they got to say baby witches? And I'm like, don't ask me, ask them.
Yeah.
I was like, it is, but I find that a lot of it could be quite bashing. Like, I've seen some people put, somebody might ask something, and they'll go, oh, you're no a witch. Well, what does no make that person a witch?
No.
You've got to be a witch because you've got to do this. And I just love the whole witchcraft culture. Always have. It's always been an interest. It's really interesting. See, when you actually break it all down and you actually read it, it is really, really interesting.
And it's fascinating, and you're right. And there is something, if you have an open mind and you're interested in it, and even if you do what I do, like I kind of called myself the other day like an enthusiastic cheerleader, because I don't practice it. I am fascinated by it. I haven't met so far, luckily, I think. I don't know. I think why should I think? I haven't met a witch I didn't like. So they've all been they've been incredible people. They're fascinating people, and
quite eccentric most.
Yeah. So some of them can be, but not all.
Yeah. And the majority have got lineage. I've got connection through past life, so my guide is Hearn for a start. So there's definite connections.
I think, you're right. I think the lineage thing it's one of those tricky ones. How we were talking a little while ago about how some witches, some groups of witches can be quite elitist. I think there is a sense that, or there used to be a sense that you have to be part of a line to be a witch. If you're really going to have the craft, it's got to be generational. It's being passed down, from your mother to your to the daughter to the whatever, the grandmother, the mother, the daughter, all the way down, because that's the only way you can legitimately be a witch.
Yeah, and, well, the majority were healers, weren't they? So it's going to be passed down.
Yeah, but I don't personally, I don't believe that.
You don't?
No, I think undoubtedly, if generationally through lineage, if you have witchcraft there, then inarguably, I would have thought that your abilities, your connection to the craft is going to be a lot stronger. But I do think that magic, witchcraft is something that's available to all of us if we want to plug into it, if we want to find,
definitely.
believe in it.
It's just like Reiki, for that matter. I mean, let's face it, some people have got the gift and some haven't. But it doesn't mean to say that there's a lot of people are not interested, because they are. And you can learn it. You're just not going to be as skilled as somebody that's natural with it.
No, it's true. But then it depends what sort of witch you want to be. We're not obviously not talking about the I'm casting spells and I'm going to make the clouds open and the rain come out, whatever. Not you can be a witch simply by following the cycles. Sorry, Lois.
No, you're fine. Carry on, love.
No, just the by following the seasons, by just being open to what is going on in the world around you, by having empathy, by just not closing yourself off.
Yeah, well, you just actually touched on another side of things there. Astrology originally was a type of witchcraft.
Sorry, Brian, I'm sorry, that was really muffled on my end.
Yeah, I've got a background noise coming, so I don't know what it is.
I don't know, Brian. I can't even hear you. You sound like you're under the sea.
Anyway,
is Brian the outtake from The Little Mermaid?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. New nickname.
Yep. Right, I'm just going to put up with Wild Bill said, witches' names were given by Christians to ones who worshipped nature and couldn't understand it, and everyone has light and dark, good and bad in them. All just depends on the intention and how you use it.
Exactly.
In my ancestry, the holy men and shamans were considered witches in their own right. On the reservoir, and I consider a shaman medicine man because of me practicing the old ways. And it says, magic isn't a gift, it's a skill we all have but forgotten.
Yeah.
And Wild Bill says, I was a member of a coven years ago and we did not call ourselves witches but were a member of a coven. But really, covens are not really as popular, I would say, anymore, to be fair.
Yeah, in answer to one of the questions, one of the first ones, witchcraft? No, not witchcraft. Paganism. That was paganism that were woven into religion and Christianity. Not necessarily witchcraft. Paganism.
Yeah. Well, there's always that crossover, isn't there, between paganism and witchcraft and Wicca and people, as you were saying, people get upset about the Satanists because they believe the Satanists are all about conjuring up Satan. And Satan isn't even there in the pantheon for witches. He's not even part of witchcraft. And Satan is obviously, as you know, is a metaphor. He's just a label to put on. Do what thou wilt. Believe in yourself. That's what Satan.
I can't remember the passage that's in that First Testament, Old Testament. He's only mentioned once, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, what's your impression of Aleister Crowley then as the self-proclaimed king of the witches?
I knew you were going to ask that one. I knew that was going to come out your mouth.
Do you know he got himself some good press, didn't he? I mean, he was an interesting dude. Obviously, I've read, like we all have, about Crowley, and I wouldn't say that I know enough about him. He's not. I think he was a really good self-publicist, and he did some interesting stuff. The idea of him conjuring up, was it Astaroth, that supposedly drove his assistant mad, and when he had the temple out in Cefalù, and they were supposed to drink cat's blood, and someone died, and there's the sort of the lurid kind of headlines surrounding Crowley are amazing, and I think he's a fascinating guy. Who knows? I don't know. At the end of the day, he didn't he die in Hastings, sort of an old man that.
Yep, that's where I live.
Oh, it's a nice part of the world.
He died.
Why don't
He
you
died
tell
2
me
minutes up the road from me. So.
Oh wow, I never know. I've heard that name constantly for the last week when I visit England. I'm going to his place. Well, he's actually got a place in Scotland as well. I'll see Alice Cowley's Gilmore as well. Wickens, the US
I've actually
legend.
got his tarot cards sitting on the shelf over there.
Oh, is that?
Oh my god.
His actual tarot cards.
Wow.
I absolutely love when you bring them out, Ian.
So what are your thoughts on Crowley? Ian? What do you?
Well, let's just say he was a very mixed character. I mean, some people can say he's a bit, maybe dual personality. I've spoken to people who actually knew him.
Here comes my second in command. A notorious NICK.
What's up, guys?
Hi.
I've spoken to people who actually knew him, and they said he had quite a nasty side to him. He could be very, he'd be in with the money people, in with the really well-to-do people.
He was very litigious, wasn't he?
Yes, and he did actually curse his doctor down here, who died 3 days later.
Oh my god!
Yeah, see, that's interesting.
Yeah, he actually put a curse on the town. So yeah, we can see that he had definitely summoned a few things down here, and that's quite apparent when you visit certain places.
So you can still feel it.
Oh yeah, you can. There's definitely we have a lot of tunnels under Hastings in places that people don't know, and there are definitely things running around down there because people have inadvertently knocked holes into these tunnels and things start happening.
Right. Well, I guess.
Ian, this is Nick. This is Ian.
Hi, Nick. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Right, quickly, guys, because Nick's just brought it to my head. Every time that boy comes on, he always reminds me of something, but it's telepathically. Just to say that we're thinking of Lauren, and she's going through a wee serious operation today, guys. So, just our thoughts for Simply Spooky Network. We are thinking of you, and for the Fright-ners team especially, we're thinking of you as well. And that's all. I did wish your sister a happy birthday at the beginning, but you only want to see it. I mean, what time do you fucking call this? 25 past 8 to stroll in, Nicholas?
See, it was kind of we had to do like last minute shopping, like for the cake and whatnot. So I thought we already had all that stuff. Turned out we didn't. So my mom had to go to the store that I worked at. I had to wait till I was done, and we had to do the shopping there. But I was going to bring up. Funny enough, I was going to bring up Lauren, so I'm glad you did, Lois. So thank you.
You're very welcome. That's all right. I'll tell you what. You give me a bit of cake, and I'll forgive you. No, but
wishing all the best and everything. And
wow, Bill.
But no, it is an interesting subject. I mean, Alistair Cowley's a really interesting guy. He is, but it's certainly no one guy that I would have liked to get on the wrong side of.
You wouldn't want to cross. When you think, yeah, I mean, when you think about what he, in literature, I mean, Dennis Wheatley.
Oh, 1 second, guys.
Would he have really had a career without Aleister Crowley to base his various books on? Or you've got M.R. James in Casting the Runes and the character of Carswell, which was, rumored to be based on Crowley because M.R. James was
Hey,
at the
Laura.
same university. Or The Magician, the W. Somerset Maugham book, The Magician, with the main character. Based on Crowley, or certainly Crowley thought he was, and then he tried to sue Somerset Maugham over it. So,
And was it the book The Dark Pilgrim as well? That's another one I've got that's based on him.
yes.
But,
So
yeah.
talking about
Not
books,
at all I'm familiar with it.
Ian, tell us about your book.
My book. I hadn't even started it.
You just said that purpose, you asshole. See what happens, but Ian, this is with the way the show goes. So tell us about your books, Ian White.
Oh, right. I thought Ian was writing a book.
No,
Right. Okay. Back in 2014, I wrote. There's a couple of books for a company called Hemlock. And
Nick, are you watching something? Nick.
I'm not very sure about the quality, but we can check it out. It's only a bit long, so.
Nick, I can hear you.
Hello.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote a couple of books, Witchcraft and Black Magic in British Cult Cinema, and Ghosts and Hauntings. I think we're going to have a cat arrive in a second, so you might get a meeting. Ghosts and Hauntings in Cult Cinema. They were published by Hemlock Books. I've got to be honest, this probably isn't a good thing to be saying, but I find it very difficult to look back on them because, man, are they overwritten. I sort of squirm a little bit when I look back now. But how I pitched those ideas was, at the time I was film review, and I'd fallen into a niche of reviewing horror films and classic horrors and that kind of thing. But I was always more, although I love those movies, I was always more fascinated by the stories behind the movies. Mm-hmm. For example, if you have, it's an easy one, the Witchfinder General. I wanted to know all about Matthew Hopkins and the true story behind him, and how close that film was to it, which isn't very much at all. So it was really an excuse to write more about witchcraft, and in the Ghosts and Hauntings book, to write more about the actual Ghosts and Hauntings than it was to write about the films themselves. So, but they're very short books. I think they're still out there.
Yep. I had to look for them, and I found one in Waterstones, and the other, I'm sure, was Amazon.
They're actually still out there. A friend of mine looked for one the other week and found it on eBay for some ridiculous amount of money, and I'm going, Nick, don't buy this. Don't buy it. Yeah, it's strange. I mean, do you guys ever feel that way about things that you've done or things you might have written or that you've talked about in the past, and there's a part of you that just wants to maybe not squirm so much as be like, can I just edit that? Can I just change that a little bit?
Yeah.
So
that's why I never watch any of my podcasts back, because I hate the sound of my own voice. Honest to God, like my partner, like I came in one night and he was watching one of my podcasts, and I'm like, turn that shit off. I says, I don't like listening to myself. If there's one thing I don't like listening to, it's my voice. I mean, just turn it off.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
Oh no, I hate my voice. I hate my own voice.
I'm exactly the same. That Paranormal Underground podcast. I haven't done that many podcasts in the past, but I haven't listened to any of them afterwards. I just can't. In fact, even when I interview people and I've got to transcribe it, I'm always like, oh man, stop talking, Ian. Just, get to the But yeah, the other day, you know how sometimes you can put a podcast on, fall asleep to it, and it's still going, sort of 7 hours later. Yeah, well, I woke up a couple of days after I did Paranormal Underground, and I was like, I know that voice, and it was my podcast was playing back, and my cat was on the bedside table next to me, literally looking at the phone, looking at me.
Oh, jeez.
You know, like
You're right,
how-
Nick.
Yeah, I'm fine. It was a mess. I had to mute things for about a minute or two because it was something involving my sister's birthday. So I'm sorry.
No, it's alright. I put you on mute because you forgot. You were too gross, and I was like, nah.
Oh,
I was
damn
like,
it.
nah.
I took the headphones off too, so I couldn't hear you.
No wonder you couldn't hear me. Was Nick that Nick late again? He's
Yeah.
bloody always like that, man. Very
Oh.
strange. He picks Scotland's Loch Ness on his doorstep, not mentioning the monster. So say that Laton LaVey is a priest in the satanic religion, but if you study his writings, he's just for self-worth and gain. I don't agree with that comment. I've got to disagree with that one. I don't think he really was, because he was another one that was just as good as the others promoting about self. Eric, I had to
it was a
message
good thing.
Nick.
Self-promote.
I visited his church, Laton LaVey, on my journey for knowledge, and I thought of it as a church for egos. I have a very Manchester accent, and I have feared myself as well as Lois. Nick wasn't late; he was working on Nick time, as always.
Am I hearing a cat yelling or something? I keep hearing a cat. in the background.
That's mine. That's why I've got to quickly shove this down so I can go and deal where I am. Sorry.
Yes, I'll be famous posthumously because my memoirs, I keep adding to it. So, yeah, nobody's going to hear about me until I've gone.
Yeah, I think, you know, going back to what Wild Bill was saying, I'm kind of with Lois on that. I think Anton LaVey was just very good at self-promotion. You know, and he was the celebrity Satanist. You know, he had Jane Mansfield in his group, and then you know there was that talk which turned out not to be true, that he was the technical advisor on Rosemary's Baby. He had something to do with being he was in the movie The Devil's Reign. He played the devil in The Devil's Reign. Terrible William Shatner film. And he was, you know, interesting, but even his daughter's, you know, Xena Shrek, who she's known as now, she's pretty much disowned him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but he was just very good self-publicist. It's great PR. It's like Crowley. It's great PR.
Oh God, aye. But what got you interested in all that, Ian?
Well, even as a kid, my favorite kind of movies were movies about witches, witchcraft, not the pointing wands and, you know, shooting people with magic kind of movies, the kids' films. It was always stuff like Night of the Eagle or Rosemary's Baby, or, you know, those kind of films. I was a very twisted, sick little kid. And then I just before I started writing for Paranormal Underground, so 2014, I became fascinated by a case in Warwickshire of a guy called Charles Walton. Have you heard of him?
Yep.
Yeah, you've heard. Yeah, the guy, he was a hedge trimmer, so he was a labourer, wasn't he? And he was murdered by witchcraft, by witches. He was found kind of sacrificed on a place called Neon Hill, and we went to my wife and I went to visit that, and I thought it would be interesting to go into the village because, you know, they still had his relatives there. They were still relatives of the people who were, the descendants of the people who were there in the 40s when Charles Warden was murdered. And I just wanted to find out what people knew about it. And it was like walking onto this. Forgive me, everyone in Lower Compton who might be listening to this, if there are, because I'm probably not being very nice about Lower Compton. But it was very much like that scene in American Werewolf, when they go into the pub, and everyone gives them that weird look. Or in a Hammer film, where there's no castle around here, sir. It's that kind of thing. No one wanted to talk about it. There was obviously still a shadow about it, or they did not want to discuss it, and I found that fascinating. So that was my little entry point, if you like.
Same with Pendle witches. The people in the next village, it's not. Again, it's hype, and a lot of what happened didn't happen in Pendle.
Brian, you sound a little bit. Can you guys hear? You sound a little bit garbled on my side.
Yeah,
he's the same. He's the same for us. It's like underwater.
Yeah, I can't hear him too well. Sorry, bro. I just noticed the sound was.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I ain't got a clue.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't know. Unless you go come back in.
Yeah,
See
just
for
go
work.
come back in. So that might be able to work then.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
That's what today. Leave and come back in to just when it breaks away.
Yeah, I'll bring it back in.
Quickly. Right, here we go. Anton thought that you put yourself on the level you wanted by imagining yourself on the level. I met him personally. While Bill says he was a cult leader. Hi, Mark! And you have to remember Anton was a Hollywood Satanist.
Yeah.
But then so was Mosty. Obviously, some of the people that are into Satanism is into Hollywood. No, what always stands out to me, right, is when you talk about Alistair Cowley, right, and he's placed up in Scotland, Balskin House, and you look at the history, and then sorry, I muted Bri.
Oh.
I put me and Nick cut him off at the same time.
Let's try
Right,
it again.
I didn't touch it this time. So basically, right, so when you look at because I've actually did research on this, because I had to write an article for a paranormal group, and I looked at obviously Balskin House, and when I was doing the research on Balskin House, and obviously I had read about the fire and everything else, what was spookily, and I'm looking at the bottom of the screen, right, I'm going to move you two round because I was looking at that screen for Ian and I was looking right at Bri. So basically what I found was that Jimmy paid and he bought that house, and what was creepy about it, which I really did read and it was creepy as, was that 10 years, I think it was 10 years by the fire or something, there was some sort of fire anyway, but it was under the same circumstances as Alistair Cowley's, and I found that dead freaky. And I thought to myself, is it because obviously, like, the same circumstances? I'm wondering if it's paranormal or not. If that makes sense, because obviously, that's twice the house has went up in fire in the exact same circumstances. That I do wonder if it's paranormal. And they were talking about, I mean, obviously, I don't know if they're trying to put the house back together, but I know that the Balskin Foundation is working up there. And I'm thinking to myself, is it really worth building something for it to happen again? I'm wondering if it would happen again.
Was the house destroyed after the first fire and then rebuilt?
Wait a minute, I'll pull up the article. But as I love Balskin House, I would love to go definitely, because I would love to camp there and see what sort of things you would vibe from it.
Yeah, yeah, and of course Jimmy Page was he produced the film Chemical Wedding. I think it's called Chemical Wedding, about Aleister Crowley with Simon Cowell.
Oh God, he was heavy into. He loved Cowley. Yeah, absolutely. That was the whole point of why he bought.
Boleskine.
Aye. He bought Boleskine House in 1971 due to his own interest in its former owner, Aleister Cowley.
So the first fire
People.
did destroy the house.
2 seconds.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely fine, honey.
I think the walls were left, wasn't it? Just everything else got gutted, I think.
After the first fire.
I think it was, yeah.
The reason I asked is because if there had been the fire, but you know the majority of the house had still been standing, and then there was the fire, and it brought the house down into ruins, then I could imagine that rebuilding it, you might not be attracting that
I
paranormal.
understood it to be a bedroom.
It has been shrouded in mystery and intrigue, once owned by notorious occultist Aleister Cowley and later by famous Zeppelin Jimmy Page. Now 3 years after Boleskine House was razed by fire, the cause of the blaze has officially been revealed as unknown, though fire investigators said it was most likely accidental and sparked by overheating, but they've not ever been able to pinpoint where it actually started. So it's really creepy, but I would really love to go there, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, because I think it would be one of the ones. Oh my God, can we spend the night just to see?
Crowley would no doubt have done a lot of rituals at Boleskine House. I mean,
Yeah.
Sort of elementals are going to be flying around inside those rooms still.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's face it, where didn't he do a lot of rituals?
Exactly.
That is a good point.
See, there's another
on
place
you
I
go,
can think
Nick.
of. There's another place I could really think of that I know was a huge spot for like where Aleister Crowley like performed his rituals at, which is located in I believe it was somewhere in Italy, I think, was Thelema Abbey, which
wow.
It still exists today, but it's in really bad shape. I mean, it looks like it's almost ready to just cave in and crumble down to the ground. I mean, the chances of trying to save this building would be very unlikely because it literally has been exposed to the elements. But the craziest thing is, in spite of its really bad, terrible shape, is that Crowley followers to this day still practice their rituals in Thelema Abbey.
Yeah,
I think it's in Greece.
What's that?
It might be in Greece, Nick.
You sure it's in Greece? I'll have to look it up.
I wouldn't want to die on that hill, but I've just got. But you know, yeah, the Abbey of Thelema is.
Yeah, it's located. It's in Cefalù, now Sicily, Italy. Yeah. So yeah, I was right. It's in Italy.
Sorry, excuse me.
And it's saying the walls are still standing. I watched a live investigation on it.
I don't know.
Robert says, don't think it was electricity in that house in the middle of nowhere.
I don't know if Annette's talking about the same place or not, but I do recall, however, and this was over 20 years ago, that the paranormal show Scariest Places on Earth actually did a little investigation on Thelema Abbey. And I mean, it wasn't necessarily a paranormal investigation. It was just a search for the Abbey, just to kind of explore kind of how it looked. But if that's not enough, I also just found something else on the Abbey of Thelema, and that there actually is a movie that was filmed by Kenneth Anger, who himself is a devotee of Crowley, and he actually filmed some of its murals for a movie that he made that was simply called Thelema Abbey back in 1955, almost 10 years after Crowley passed away.
He's an interesting character, definitely.
Kenneth Anger was an interesting, recently passed. But he was Whoa, I've lost you. Oh no, that's okay. It's just my screen playing up. Sorry. Yeah, he was an interesting guy because obviously he was an occultist, and something else that I've always been interested in is the idea of magic in film, and the idea that, you know, Kenneth Anger believed that you could create a magical ritual in film, which I've always found fascinating. I'd love to know more about his thoughts on that, but we'll never know.
So what do you think of I know this is totally off
here we
topic.
go.
Sometimes this is where it goes. But what do you think about when people always talk about the Wizard of Oz, they talk about the guy that's always singing through one of the scenes?
Oh, what the hanging munchkin?
Uh-huh.
When they're going through the forest and the trees are throwing apples at them, and
Yeah, I see it all the time.
swinging from the top. You know, it makes a great Hollywood legend, doesn't it? It's like the using the real life skeletons in Poltergeist. You know, it's
Yeah.
you know, the lightning hitting the Gregory Peck's jet on the way to filming The Omen. You know,
Yeah.
put it in that sort of category for me. I love the idea of it. There's a fantastic film that I think, hopefully, you guys will have heard of it or know about it. It's been long forgotten, and I wish it wasn't. Carrie Fisher and Chevy Chase. I hate Chevy Chase, but that's got nothing to do with it. It's called Over the Rainbow, and it is all about the Munchkins, the behind-the-scenes story of what the Munchkins and the debauchery the Munchkins got up to when they went to Hollywood to film The Wizard of Oz. You know, the stories behind that film are better than the film, and I love the film.
Sometimes that is like some films. It sounds better than it actually does.
But The Wizard of Oz is a wonderful film.
Yeah. And
So
also,
do you
speaking
still think? On you go, handsome.
I was just gonna say, you know, speaking of films, I was just having some interest in that, like I said, about that movie I just brought up about Thelema Abbey. In case any of you guys wanted, you guys show interest and want to check it out. Unfortunately, you guys won't be able to because, it's unusual for a movie from this era from the 50s, but unfortunately, no copies of the movie are known to exist of Thelema Abbey. It's basically a lost film. So, in other words, it's been lost to time, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, maybe in the future a copy will eventually turn up, just not as of right now. So, as of right now, until a copy is found, it's been lost to time.
I do apologise. That was my sister in the background talking. Well, I thought she'd stopped talking, and I literally unmuted this. You could hear her saying, "Fuck you, Mum." Yeah.
She sounds just like you, Ben.
I was trying to be nice to you all night, but to you English asshole. But that's why I'm not looking at other Ian, because I don't want nobody to think I'm talking about him. I'm talking about you.
I don't mind, because I said I'm available for insults. I really don't mind. I've got to put my glasses on because I can't read what people are writing.
Watch The Wizard of Oz and the Dark Side of the Moon playing with the movie muted.
I've heard that. Have you ever tried that?
No, but that's quite an imaginary. That's some thinking right there.
Yeah, I came across that actually quite recently. Someone put that on Facebook, so you need to try that.
Weekend's homework.
Sorry.
Wizard of Oz, come on, how can you lose?
Well, but no. Have you got any other books in the back pedal, Ian?
You mean, sorry, Les, you mean that I'm working on at the moment? Or no, there was because of my interest in binding Trump and the magical resistance that we were talking about earlier. I pitched. I'm trying to get someone interested in a book which is basically about magical resistance, but also about thought forms and egregores and tulpas. The idea that we create, the group created a lot of the problems. Some people think that Trump was almost not exactly a tulpa, but that he was given that kind of power because of all the people getting behind his insanity. I've always been fascinated by that. But, most publishers, well, all the publishers I've approached have been like, oh, no, we like the how-to books about witchcraft. So, no.
Wow.
Got a question. Where would you say that the Illuminati fit into it all?
I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't...
You're still a little muffled.
Where do you think the Illuminati fit into it all?
The Illuminati?
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to meet them because it's probably the best way to get Beyonce's autograph. That joke died on its ass, like my stand-up career when I used to do that. The Illuminati is a secret society. I don't know. Again, it's one of those. It's a fascinating idea. It would be nice to, on one level, to think that there was this, secret cabal going on who were controlling everything, and maybe they're lizards and maybe they're not, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, the Illuminati was a real society back in the 1700s, wasn't it? Out in Bavaria, wherever they.
Yeah, they're connected to Templars and everything, and the symbolism, they're still about everywhere.
Well, the Templars are interesting. I mean, the Templars, as a society, I've always thought of the most interesting of the lot, really, because the Pope got behind them and gave them a place to be, and then all of a sudden, when they became too powerful, the Pope decided that he was going to get them wiped out. So I guess that's the deal with secret societies, isn't it? It's don't get too big for your boots, otherwise the church is going to come along and kick you in the ass.
That's the best way to describe it.
Which obviously is what happened with
the light bulb. Yeah, some societies, some Masons are connected. They use the same symbolisms. So yeah.
Well, I'll have to ask my uncles then, because they're both Masons.
The Masons, the Masons. There's a Templar thing with the Masons as well, isn't there?
Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, a place that I'd love to go to actually is Montségur out in the French Pyrenees.
Oh. Well, Bill's a Freemason.
Oh. So are you in the Illuminati then, Bill?
Can't answer that.
Yeah, I couldn't hear that. Again,
you haven't given him the secret handshake, Bryce, so he's not going to answer.
Oh, sorry. Dob.
You good there, Lois? Or she's muted. Okay.
No, yeah, I was good. I was choking. I didn't want you to hear me choking, so you'd be like, die quietly.
It's funny when Brian was just doing the Illuminati handshake thing, all I could think of was Larry, Curly, and Moe.
And I'm a big fan of those guys.
Maybe they were Freemasons.
Oh, they were, really? I didn't know that.
No. Maybe they were. Maybe that was their big secret. The big joke they had on all of us.
I'm gonna
who is
have to look
sending that
that.
message. Maybe they're Illuminati.
I'm gonna have to look
Maybe
that
the
up.
world is controlled by Larry Curly and Moe.
Well,
Maybe.
you know what?
Maybe.
You know what? I'm not even joking, but my grandfather actually got to meet him when he had. Well, I mean, not like, and it was not like at an event or something, because like where I live in Chicago, and most of my family's lived here for at least like my grandfather up until, you know, before that he had been living here in Chicago since the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 40s, he was working at a local drugstore in Chicago, and he had I guess he was loading something up from like the drugstore he was working at, and as he was walking out, all of a sudden here comes Mo, Larry, and Curly walking down the street, and he got to chat with them. And this was at a time before, you know, all these celebrities had security guards with them. They had to, there was like it was at a time like not everybody was chasing them, and of course, obviously. Yes, we had cameras back then, but not the cameras where you could take a selfie or simply a picture with them. So, but he got to see them when they were still at their basically at their prime era.
That is terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Very
I mean,
least I wish you could have had was they could have gotten was like a signature, but you know, there's only so much you can do, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. But yeah. So I definitely. It's been a good show. Thanks very much, Ian. When are you coming back?
Well, I would love to come back. Well, thank you for letting me on in the first place. But I think you might. Hold on, we're going to see a cat. Yes, we are.
Oh.
Oh.
Do you know what? I am embarrassingly free. Whenever you would like me back, I would love to come back. And
Absolutely.
maybe we could talk more about the witchcraft activism if you'd like to. But
Yeah, that would be pretty good. That would be pretty good. I mean, I learned tonight. I didn't even know there was such a group that did that sort of stuff. Like, so that was quite an eye opener.
It's a fascinating subject, and I won't. You know, I can really turn into. I'll just bore everybody to death with it. But
not at all. Carry on.
Witches have been protesting for. Sounds like it's set up for a gag, doesn't it? Witches have been protesting for centuries. The cone of power to stop the Armada coming over, and then you've got the witches, the New Forest witches, and Gerald Gardner doing the "You shall not come over here," stopping Hitler from the coming over here and invading Britain, and then you've got binding Trump, you've got Pussy Riot, Nadia Tolokonikova, who are completely in love with, she's got herself into so much trouble recently for an art installation witchcraft binding curse called Putin's Ashes. So there's a lot to talk about.
Well, what is your thoughts on curses, Ian? Do you think it's psychological? Do you think it's maybe the power of suggestion? If someone tells you you're cursed, you just believe that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think there is a lot to that. You know, the idea of you had to know if an Aboriginal witch doctor, I don't know if they didn't call them witch doctors, did they? But pointing the bone at a victim, and then the victim dies 3 days later. But they had to know the bone was pointed out.
Yeah, that's right.
There was that
very much like that. If you're told by a witch doctor that's it. And it's a belief. It's definitely a belief.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. People. When I'm so into the binding Trump thing and the magical resistance and the friends that I've made there, and I'm just as a form of protest, I'm fascinated by it, and it's very, very easy and understandable for skeptics to go, yeah, but did it work? Trump stayed in office for the whole 4 years. Did it really work? Who knows? It's not quantifiable. But the thing is that enough shit happened to go, I don't know. maybe.
Yeah.
You've no
Right.
idea.
Yeah.
It's this thing that I was just mentioning about the Pussy Riot, Putin's ashes. All it takes, that has actually got Nadia Tolokonnikova on an enemy of the state list in Russia. You know, that I think she could be certainly imprisoned, but maybe even executed if she goes back to Russia, because she upset Putin so much with this, you know, act of protest, really act of magical protest. So you know, hey, does the curse work? Well, the curse got Putin upset, and
No,
you know,
it does in conjunction with chemicals.
Something I will agree with you, Bill, is Hollywood has really bastardized the whole satanic belief,
yeah,
even.
I just also want to point this out with what Wild Bill also said earlier, because he mentioned something about the Three Stooges again. Wild Bill, that's actually Curly came first before Shemp. He replaced Curly afterwards. So, and then of course, actually after Shemp, then he had Joe, which didn't really stay for too long. Then you had Curly
sorry.
Joe.
And it was saying, I think the concept of Satanism and Lucifism are thrown together when in fact they're very different. I'll tell you, now, you've just reminded me of a story. When I joined a few Satanist groups, right, I didn't understand that there was all different kinds of Satanism.
Excuse me.
One's a wish. No, no, I won't cancel my holiday. But I joined I joined a couple of different Satanist groups, and the one that stood out to me the most was a atheist Satanism group. And I had to sort of like, oh my god, right, wait a minute, this is quite a weird one to step into. So I kind of went in and I put the cat amongst the pigeons, because I put a post up asking what kind of group it was, because obviously atheist Satanism, I was like, so you don't believe in God, but then you don't believe in the devil. How does that quite work? And I've never been pounded so much. It was like almost like you had spoke about orbs. It was like you almost got pounced and kicked everywhere. And one of the admins was really cheeky, and I had a right chuckle about it. My friend jumped in and was like, she was getting angry with him, while I was just laughing, because I'm just thinking to myself, I find it funny how they could say, well, I don't believe in God, but I don't believe in the devil. Well, why the fuck are you a Satanist group then? So it was quite an interesting one. You ever heard something like that, Ian, where they're called atheist
I mean,
Satanists?
there's actually a really good documentary out there. It was made 2 or 3 years ago called Hail Satan, about the Church of Satan, which is worth tracking down if you're interested in it. The idea of, you know, Satan being just a figurehead, a metaphor. You know, he was the ultimate rebel. You know, the fallen angel, and he stood up against God, and so, you know, they use him as kind of a conduit. They don't believe in him, but they believe in what he stands for, which was, you know, do what thou wilt. You know, do you can, look after you.
Yeah.
Which some people think is a selfish thing, but it doesn't have to. And sometimes it can be if you take it that way. But like black magic or white magic, you can look after you, but look after everything else as well. You know, you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can save the person next to you. It's that kind of thing.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. That's very, very true. Remember this, they never killed anybody, but God did. But yeah, it is an interesting subject, but definitely we will get you back on, Ian, without a shadow of doubt. 'Cause there's so much to dive into, and I've had the pleasure of your company tonight, and thank you so much for obviously, you know, and bringing yourself to me. But definitely, do you want to tell guys where they'll find you if you've got any channels, pages? This is what I
Um,
tend to do every day.
I'm very antisocial. I only come out once a year, and it was tonight.
All right.
Um,
So will I come back? Will I come back for you next year?
I'm going back in my
Go ahead,
hole.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right, Nick. I've got my day job. I'm a writer and a content creator, which always sounds very wanky, but I think that's what people call us now. Called Front Page Media UK. So if anyone wants to say hi, track me down, that's probably the best way to find me. www.frontpagemediauk, I think .co.uk. Just put Front Page Media UK. Anything. You can also find me on Facebook.
And also AKA Santa. Then you only come out once a year.
I was just about. First off, Bri, your sound has finally come back clearly.
Yes,
secondly, I was going to say, I just wrote.
Lois lifted a curse on him.
What I was going to say was I just wrote. Okay, so we'll check back with Ian White at 2:00 next year. On June 2nd.
Oh boy, is that the time were you on it?
In the afternoon.
I'll make sure that it's 15 minutes early this time and no half an hour late, the arsehole.
Always late.
Can I just say before I go, because Nick talking about Chicago has reminded me, do you know Rick Hale?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
He lives in Chicago, doesn't he? I think.
I'm not sure if he does now. I think he used to live here in Chicago, but I think he moved to I'm actually looking up now to see where he's at. We got here is, give me a second here, my phone can cooperate.
Nick, what did you do to him that he moved away? I've told you about your antisocial behaviour. Stop it.
He told him you were visiting Nick, so he left.
Okay, so
listen, see if God asked me to sacrifice one of my team, you bastard. Do you first?
you know what? Actually, I think what I'm seeing on his page, I thought he moved. I guess he didn't. I guess he still lives in Chicago.
That will save you.
He would be if he hasn't already been a guest on the show. I would nominate Rick, and obviously you spoke with William a while ago. They're the two.
I
guys.
don't think I've never ever had William on the show. That'll be actually I will really need to get William on, definitely.
Okay. I thought
I work beside William on Simplest Booking Network. He's got a show on the Simplest Booking Network and so far.
Okay. All right. I'm
Want to put some tape across Lewis's mouth, though.
Anyway, sorry. I don't know. I'm not Rick Hale's agent. Why am I suggesting this? Yeah.
Oh, you're absolutely fine. We're always looking for new suggestions.
He's a lovely guy and a fascinating guy who is the expert on. If you can't be an expert on paranormal, but what he doesn't know about ghosts and isn't worth knowing. But as for me, yep, I would love to come back, and it's been a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you.
That's a date, definitely. But everyone have a good weekend, and we will speak to you soon. Nick, are you on tonight again?
Not tonight, no. Because like I said, we're going to be celebrating my sister's birthday. We're having family coming out. Looking forward to it. And then, of course, well, I don't want to say this publicly, but then I got something else I got to deal with tomorrow, which I'm not really thrilled with. Well, no, actually, it's an unfortunate circumstance. I told you about it before, Lois.
Right, I'll pull back the whole situation. I was going to slag you, but until you said that there.
Yeah, it's something else.
Oh God. But yous all take care, everyone, and I'll see yous all soon. All right, guys.
See you
Right,
later.
bye, everyone.
Sarah.
Bye.